I'll give you an example. This will work better for, all right. So if I were to ask you, what is goodness? For something to be morally good. Something is morally good. What does that mean?
It means it's good.
Meaning what?
It's not bad.
Meaning it's not bad, which of course now forces us into the question of what's bad. And is bad an actual property in itself, or is bad simply the absence of good? So it draws us right back to having to figure out what is good. Because if you don't know what goodness is, you can't pursue the good. And you might think like, no, but I'm like, so if I were to ask you, are you a good person? You know, if you're a good person, like, how about, is anybody here a good person?
I'm a great person.
Have you ever told a lie before?
Yeah.
So what does that make you?
I'm great.
A liar. So is it part of being a good person part of being a great person to be a liar? If you see a liar, would you say that's a good person?
Well, it depends.
On what?
Because what if he lied to protect someone else?
Yeah, or it could be that I'm more of a good person than I am a liar.
So if you're one more time.
So that I'm more of a good person than I am a liar.
Okay. So I'm gonna answer both of these. So let's say you're more of a good person than you are a liar. How many times do you have to murder somebody before you're a murderer?
One.
But it was one day. You murdered one person on one day. Look at all the days you've been alive. You've not murdered way more than you've murdered, right? Yeah.
You kill somebody though, that's it.
That's it. But you get the problem. Now, if you're lying for a good reason, doesn't everybody think that when they lie for a good reason?
No.
And, no?
I know when
Some people lie to manipulate. That's not a good reason.
Some people lie what?
To manipulate.
To manipulate. So give me an example. Give me an example of lying to manipulate. Help her out. There's a bunch of you over there now.
No, I don't know, some people might lie to make you do something for their own benefit.
Like what? Yeah, right.
Or if you're in a relationship and say for example your boyfriend cheats on you and you find out and he tells you, no, I was thinking about you the whole time and I swear I love you so much.
Yeah.
He's lying.
Why?
Because he probably wasn't.
Because if he loved you, he wouldn't have cheated on you.
Well, hold on, before saying, well, so then of course we have to figure out what we mean by love, because maybe it's part of love that you cheat.
No.
Love is everything.
Because if love is everything, then you can love multiple people, can't you? And wouldn't you be denying yourself if you limit yourself in this way? And besides which, why would he be lying about that? What's he trying to do? To manipulate?
He's trying to save himself.
Is it himself, or is it the person's feelings?
No, it's himself because he wants to watch.
It could be both.
It could be both. So in other words, therefore, he's lying for a good reason, because he's trying to spare you the bad feelings.
But then you didn't think about your feelings when he cheated on you.
What's that mean?
You didn't think about your feelings when he cheated on you.
How do you know? You don't know what's in his head.
Then why would he do it then?
Because a person can. Do you love your grandparents?
Yeah.
Both of them? How could you love two people at once? I don't understand.
But I don't go cheating on them until they know where everybody's their grandpa.
Do you have a favorite grandparent?
Yes.
Do you tell your grandparents that you have a favorite?
No.
I don't have a favorite, I just...
That's withholding information from them.
That's
That's,
what I heard with women.
I feel like they know.
so shouldn't you know when something's wrong in your relationship that the person is now cheating?
Oh. Exactly. You have a good point.
There is. Because there's something to what you're saying that, because the problem with what you're saying, the problem there is that, have you ever promised one of your grandparents that they're your favorite?
No.
Okay. And that's the problem there with cheating. It's that you're promising a person that you're going to be loyal. So it's actually violating a promise. That might be the bad part of it. That's the part that makes it not good. And when you cheat on someone, I mean, you can't cheat on someone who you're not intimate with. And I just mean that in the sense of emotionally close with. When you're emotionally close with a person, the idea is that you know them. You know them. You think you do. You know what kind of pizza they like. You know if they get onions on their cheeseburgers or not. You know what shows they watch. And the more that you get to know them, you know the really deep, intimate things. I talked to you guys, I think, last semester about the 36 questions for falling in love. Yeah. So the idea behind that is that you get to know a person at a very deep, intimate level. Now imagine if you get to a point where you know a person as well as you know yourself. In fact, you may even think that you know that person better than you know yourself. And then suddenly one day, you find out that they're cheating on you. What that does is it's not just an emotional hurt. Now it unsettles everything about the world around you. What can you know? You thought you knew this person better than you know yourself. It turns out that what you thought you knew was completely wrong. What else are you completely wrong about? This is why when they say people develop trust issues from that, it's developing trust issues in terms of the other person, of being able to trust another person, but it's also a trust issue in terms of being able to trust yourself. You can't trust your own judgment anymore. What can you trust it about? Should you take that job offer or not? Should you, go to college or not? Should you, who knows, even like this pair of shoes, am I picking that out because I like it, or is that because of this relationship where this person would have liked it, and so I did that. You now can't trust yourself, and you have to rediscover yourself after that. That's why it's so bad. It isn't just, and by the way, the course of your life is also different. Because you're with this person, you're kind of going through life together. If this person had never made those promises, you'd have gotten off that train back here somewhere. And if you did that, maybe you'd have met somebody else, or maybe your life would have been better in remarkable ways. Who knows? You'll never know. We can idealize it and say, oh, I'm sure it would have been better. But we don't know. This is the deeper issue about that sort of thing, about cheating. Because you're using a person for your purposes the same way that I use a pen to write. You're using that person for your own purposes, not truly respecting their humanity. Secondly, you're completely unsettling the lens through which they experience the world and causing deep self-doubt that will impact them in every facet of life. And then also you're changing the course of their lives. It's interesting when you think of it that way, rather than just, I don't know, like, why'd you cheat? I don't know. Doesn't that suck? That all of that has happened from someone who just says, I don't know. It does happen from men and women. And by the way, who's more likely to cheat, men or women? The studies indicate it's equal. It's equal. So before we sit there and be like, getting mad at the other, at one sex or the other, consider it through there. Maybe there's something wrong with how it is that we view relationships. So, anyways, so I've already asked you what goodness is. Somebody might say, well, good is what, and this happens in one of his dialogues, good is what the gods love. So is honesty good? Yes. Is compassion good? Yes. And you go down the line and say, these are the things that the gods love, and so therefore these are the things that are good. Well, are they good because the gods love them, or do the gods love them because they're good? Because if it's true that they're good, or because if it's true that the gods love them because they're good, then that means that there are these things that are above the gods. Love, honesty, these kinds of concepts. Which would mean that these are the gods, not these. These are just the stronger beings that happen to channel these greater character traits. But if you say, no, it's the other way around, that these things are good because the gods love them, and we should aspire to be more like the gods. Okay, fair enough. Going back to Athens, how many gods did they have? A lot. There's a lot of gods. And these gods were constantly at war with each other, fighting among themselves. If the gods agreed on these things, they wouldn't be fighting among themselves. It's kind of like us. We seem to agree that these things are good, and yet some of us just don't live by them. If we actually all live by them, not even all, if most of us, in fact, if many of us lived by these things, we'd probably be in a very different kind of a world. So it begs this question about what goodness is. So yeah, it's this. But then that contradicts, because Zeus might love something that Athena doesn't. So now who's right, who's wrong? How do you know what goodness is? Well, as we're going to say, well, what if there's only one God? What if there's only one God? And if that's true, then there are no gods, there's no contradiction, it's just this one thing. Okay, so goodness, therefore, is what is power. So in other words, whoever the strongest being is, that's who gets to determine what goodness is. Well, no, they love these things because, oh, sure, we can't go that way again because then it sounds like those things are above this. So you see it creates these significant problems. This is how Socrates would talk with people. And in fact, that was a very similar conversation to one that he actually had. He's going to court, as we're going to see, he gets put on trial. And while he's on his way to court, he comes across a guy he knows who's a lawyer. And he goes, oh, hey, how you been? And they're talking. And so the guy asks Socrates, what are you doing here? I can't imagine that you're being prosecuted for something. You're a good dude. Socrates says, yeah, they're putting me on trial today. For what? Impiety, in other words, rejecting the gods of Athens, and for corrupting the youth. So, I don't know. So who's prosecuting you? A guy named Meletus. He's a young guy. I have no idea who this guy is. And the other guy says, I have no idea who he is either. Oh. Says, I have no idea who this guy is either. So then Socrates asks him, well, what are you doing here? And the guy says, oh, I'm here and I'm prosecuting my dad, actually. What? You're prosecuting your dad? Yeah. So what terrible thing could your dad have done that have you prosecuting him? So he's talking about it. And then the guy kind of says that he knows what goodness is. And so Socrates says, you know what goodness is? Well, that's wonderful. I don't know what goodness is. As we're going to see next time, Socrates was said to be the wisest man who ever lived because he knew one thing, which was that he knew nothing. Versus the rest of us who walk around thinking that we know things, but we don't know things. We have true beliefs, but we don't know things. We just think we do, which is even worse. Because when you think you know something, you won't keep investigating it. So Socrates argued that he knew nothing. And so he says, well, you know what goodness is? Well, then help me out. What's goodness? And the guy says, goodness is what the gods love. As we just saw how that falls apart. And so Socrates questions him and doesn't make any statements, just asks him questions. And then at the end of it, we see, like in all of Socrates' dialogues, how they tend to end. You know what? I don't have time right now. I have to get to court. I'd love to finish this conversation, Socrates, but you're just not understanding, and I have to go. And he scurries off. This is how most of his dialogues end. We'll see. So, questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? All right.